I think those are kind of, in a sense, sellers market hacks. It's a challenge. It's hard to be a buyer right now because it's
Totally.
everything's rushed, and
Yeah.
you got to be prepared.
Yeah. Hi guys, I am here today with Tony Byrne from the Tony Byrne Lending Team at Heritage Home Loans. Is that right?
Yep.
All right, got it. And I have some questions for him about mortgages, today's market, and some other little tidbits. So take a listen. So there's a new product that you guys are offering called a renovation loan for. Tell me a little bit about that.
So I wouldn't say they're new, but I think they're new to the community because
Okay.
people are starting to use them more. The FHA 203K it's a great loan for first-time home buyers that are out looking for homes that may not be their standard, but is in their neighborhood or has the amount of bedrooms they want or whatever. The carpet's old. Those kitchen needs updates. And then the home style renovation is conventional's version of Fannie Mae's version of that.
Okay.
And it's the same thing. It's just a conventional. So there's reduced mortgage insurance or different types of mortgage insurance. So they're both great loans, and I think they're a valuable asset as you kind of head into a seller's market. Like first-time home buyers are out trying to buy homes, and all of a sudden they can't find what they want. It has all the stuff they want, but the one they want they can't afford because prices are going up. And then so they have to update a kitchen or update a bathroom or whatever it is, just clean it up. But they don't have the money to do that. So you can put that into a there's an FHA and a conventional refinance or purchase that you can do to improve your house. And they're pretty easy. That there's been contractors we've had issues with because there's some struggles with the way they get paid before and after the process. But other than that, I think it's a matter of finding a good contractor that is responsive to bids and our side of the process, because it's not necessarily the lender that struggles with it. It's the rules they have to follow to do it. So that can be a struggle, but finding a good contractor that's willing to do them is a big deal.
Are there certain limitations, like guidelines that the contractor kind of has to know to be able to?
Well, it just depends on the draw process. So of the loan, and the FHA and conventional are different. They're just specific to like an FHA. There's one version where you can only do kind of like updates, and then there's one version where you can like move walls around and stuff, but those are obviously more involved.
Like structural changes.
Yeah, I do think that's like moving into this kind of the way the market is. I think that's an option that first-time home buyers especially should be aware of and know that just because you may buy a house for $75, that's worth more once you make minor updates to the house. And I don't think that option is explored all the time. It's always like, we just want this house,
Here's
and
the value of the
we
house. There's your loan.
want 5 bedrooms and an updated kitchen and whatever. Well, that's overpriced right now. It's a challenge. It's hard to be a buyer right now because it's
Totally.
everything's rushed, and you got to be prepared.
Yeah. And pre-approval becomes such a factor now. It's like, if you're not ready and can say, I can do this, I mean, in a market like this, it's really hard to be even looked at and considered.
Well, and it's like, I mean, you look at these loans with like, I like doing VA loans a lot. And because they're zero down, they don't get accepted because people consider that a bad loan. It's not a bad loan. It's actually statistically, it's the best loan in terms of like foreclosure rate and those kind of things. The credit's higher than most people on average. So, but because it's zero down, it's looked at as like a bad loan. And it's the same thing with, FHA is considered a bad loan to sellers when that's not necessarily the case. Sometimes they could be qualified for a conventional, and they just choose to do FHA because it allows maybe a little bit easier qualification or whatever reason. It's not always a bad loan, you know. Personally, I like working with veterans and first-time home buyers.
Okay.
But we have a loan product, I think, for most everyone. I mean, if you can get pre-approved, we'll have that product. I think there's products in Spokane that aren't used a whole lot, like the USDA loan. Basically, all the surrounding areas are great.
That's rural. areas, right? Yeah. Which we have a lot of
there's
right
a lot,
on the
yeah,
outskirts here.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Those are great loans that maybe are underused. We do a lot of the Washington State bond loans. I do a lot of VA loans, and then obviously your FHA and conventional. But I don't know that, some lenders, like I said, I like to focus on VA loans and first-time home buyers just because I think they're underserved, and I think they need an advocate lender type situation to make sure that their offers are getting accepted. So that's where I've chosen to kind of focus my business on. But I think any lender is going to have most of the products. If you don't, you're uncompetitive. And I think every lender is going to have a certain niche or whatever that they like working with more than the others. And I think understanding the things that go into doing that loan, or understanding that this offer is going to be a challenge to get accepted, I think is a big deal. And getting in touch with the listing agent and saying this is a good pre-approval for a first-time home buyer, or even explaining that a VA loan, this isn't a bad loan, to a listing agent is a big deal.
Yeah.
And helps get offers accepted.
So let's say a first-time home buyer or someone who's not a first-time home buyer, they're looking to find, because you're saying each lender might have a specific group that they work really well with. How does someone go about kind of finding that right fit?
I think just doing your internet research. I think, Facebook, I think, is a great tool. If they have a Facebook page, not everyone does, their messaging on their Facebook page should tell you kind of what their niche is. And then ask them, who they, when you call them, who do you typically work with, or what, and every one of us is always going to say whatever you are.
Yes.
Yeah, but I think, ask them when was the last time they did a VA loan or a first-time home buyer loan, and what did that process look like? I think asking the right questions that suit you, not necessarily like the rate doesn't matter until you want to work with them. So.
Speaking of rates, what are you seeing right now, and what's your thought on the projections for the future for interest rates?
So they're going to go up. They're not going down anymore for a while. After the tax reform passed a couple weeks ago, they've been going up fairly significantly since that day. In 2018, I think we have a couple things. We have the taxes, I think, is going to affect the stock market, which has an effect on rates. But who knows what's going to happen with that? We may see a pullback and those kind of things. I don't know. They're supposed to hike their Fed interest rate 3 times this year. So eventually that's going to start affecting rates. I think more of an issue may be the prices of homes as kind of time moves on. So you have kind of the rates going up and home prices going up. It's kind of a double negative for buyers. I think it's going to be harder to refinance. So if people don't like their payment, they may have to look at selling and moving up or on or whatever. But rates are going up, and I don't see them going down for a while. I don't know that it's going to, right now they're in the low to mid 4s, or some places have them still in the really low 4s. I don't think it's not going to be like 7% on January 1st of next year, but I think mid 4 is going to be kind of where we're at, and then we'll kind of see. I don't know that it'll go much higher than that.
So for people looking to buy in today's market the way that it is right now, what are the things that they should be doing to prepare? We talked about pre-approvals. That's one big factor. What other things are you seeing that people should really be doing if they're thinking about buying now or in maybe the next couple of years here?
So ironically, yesterday I read a stat on that only like 50% of people take advantage of like the free credit report or even know what their score is.
Wow, 50%, huh?
So I think the first thing to do is we had the Equifax hack last year and those kind of things. So just kind of having an idea of what's on your credit report and is it really yours?
Which is it? Is it freecreditreport.com you can go to?
Yeah, and Credit Karma and a lot of those different ones. You get one free one a year.
Yep.
And it's not necessarily going to be an accurate score. because compared to our model, they're different models.
Right.
So the scores are always going to be typically they're 20 to 30 points higher at when you pull the free credit report than they are with the lender. But there may be someone that has a new credit card under your name, or there may be a medical bill you didn't pay 6 years ago that's showing up as a collection now, or a parking ticket that you didn't know about, or whatever. There's a lot of things on your credit report that you may not know about that are affecting your score. So I recommend going there and just making sure that's cleared up, or even going to a lender to have them review your credit report, just so you know where things stand. Because if you can clean those issues up, you just need to know in advance. You can't go this Friday and get pre-approved and then there's an issue show up and make an offer on Saturday.
And all of a sudden have time to fix that,
Yeah.
So what's the, there's a talk about hard inquiries will affect your credit report. How accurate is that? Do you think that that's valid?
Yes and no. So
Okay.
it is valid if you have a ton of inquiries on your credit report. I'm going to sound like a jerk for saying this, but typically the people that say I don't want my credit report pulled, when you end up getting it pulled, there's 35 other inquiries. So if you manage your inquiries, it's not that huge of a deal. It is going to ding you a little bit, but like in the case of mortgage, if you go and get pre-approved, you have 30 or so days to shop for a mortgage without those being hard inquiries.
They kind of count as one, right?
Yeah, they count as one. So yes and no. I think it all goes back to, do you have several other inquiries, or is this just one and whatever? But I also noticed that people get pre-approved and then all of a sudden they'll have a bunch of it, because that kind of creates confidence in a consumer that they can get pre-approved for anything, and so they'll show up with a bunch of inquiries. Well, that's where the problem lies, is overdoing it on them, and not necessarily just having one or two. So
would you say maybe then it's like, if you're really looking at buying and you want to have a pre-approval, kind of get your ducks in a row before you go get your pre-approval and you're really ready to kind of pull the trigger and move forward?
I would say if you're serious about it, let's say you want to buy in April, I would say probably start now. Just visit with a lender. You don't have to necessarily go through the entire pre-approval process, but just go and visit with one and say, hey, we're planning on buying in April. Our credit's this, our income's this. Just go over the process with them, and just see if it may be easy. It may be a slam dunk, maybe no problem. But for the most part, there's going to be a challenge in everybody's pre-approval. And so just visit with someone and ask questions like, is this going to be an issue? And if it's not, then you can wait. And if they think it is, then it may be worth starting now.
Yeah, maybe give yourself the time to kind of straighten some things out if you need to.
Right.
What is the timeline for a pre-approval these days? I think you actually just put a video out about this, didn't you?
So it lasts 120 days, but
Okay.
It all really depends on the client. Like, we see Rocket Mortgage say it takes 8 minutes. It doesn't, never really takes 8 minutes for a legitimate pre-approval, unless you have the highest credit score you can have, or your score's in the 800s, and you're a W-2 employee, and like you're kind of a unicorn.
All the best case scenario.
Yeah. So not necessarily I would say, if you have your paperwork, because that's a process that typically takes a while. And you're going to need like your pay stubs and W-2s and tax returns and those kind of things. It should take 24 hours so like you could start today and probably be pre-approved tomorrow. If there are challenges with your credit, if there's the way you make your money is tricky, it may take a little bit longer. If you're self-employed or commissioned, that may take a little bit longer to review and do those kind of things. It shouldn't take that long, but you don't want it to be so quick that it's sloppy and ends up causing trouble down the road.
So a day to, on the long end, where are we looking?
A week.
Day 20.
Yeah. And so.
And then that's good for 120 days. So you have that window. You should be really looking at like, what time of the year are you wanting to buy, so you can kind of plan ahead for that. Sounds like, yeah.
Right. And I would say, getting legitimately pre-approved, say within a month of starting. But if you're right now, if you're kind of thinking about buying after the spring or whatever, I would just visit with someone and just kind of go over it, and then kind of really finish up that pre-approval a month ahead of time or a couple weeks ahead of time, just so you kind of have that during the time you're looking for a home. You have that extra 120 days to not have to pull another credit report or update paperwork and those kind of things.
Are there any products out there right now today? You were talking a little bit about the renovation loans.
Yeah, I think, first-time home buyers are out there looking for homes and may not find something they like. But it may be in a neighborhood they like. It may just need certain updates. Or it just, it's just old and it's not exactly what they want. The renovation loan is, I think, a good product to work around with, not buying the top of the market or whatever. You buy lower and then you renovate it and make it what you want. And there's a conventional and an FHA version of those. So I think those are kind of, in a sense, sellers market hacks. I like, if people need down payment assistance, the Washington State Housing Finance Commission offers good options. I love working with VA loans for a lot of obvious reasons. I think it's an underserved community. And I think it saves them a lot of money. They've earned the right to get that, all those kind of things. So, and then there's, last year they came out with a 3% down conventional loan that's great for first-time home buyers. So there's a lot of different, there's basically something for everyone.
Right.
It just kind of depends on your situation. It not necessarily, people just go, well, I just need a conventional loan. And that's not necessarily the case. So,
what are some of the biggest mistakes you see people make in their application process?
I think the biggest one people make is they think it's like a job interview, and that you can kind of
dress nice.
Dress nice and you'll just get pre-approved. So the reality is the more honest you are, we're going to find out whatever is wrong with your credit or income or whatever. You can't tell us you make
somewhere.
And we're going to find that paper and we're going to see it from you, and it sucks because we're going to keep asking for paperwork until we find what we want. But I think trying to hide certain things from us, and then we find them out in the middle of while you're under contract, that's going to extend the process and could cost you money, whether it's a lock extension or whatever. But not being 100% honest with where you're at, I think, is the biggest mistake. And then during the process, I think just kind of delaying on paperwork, getting returned. We don't want to ask for it either, but we have to. It's not those kind of things. But I see, typically if it takes more than a couple days to get paperwork back, it extends the process a little bit, and then someone's pushing on the other end to make up for time and to make sure we meet closing deadlines. So those two things, I think, are just be honest. We've probably seen a worse situation than yours, and we're not here to scold you about things you made in the past. We just want to fix them and get them done ahead of time.
Cool. Your company is
Heritage
Home Loans, and you're the Tony Byrne Lending Team under Heritage.
Yes.
And you can be found on Facebook?
On Facebook at Tony Byrne Lending Team.
Okay.
And then my website is SpokaneMortgageGuy.com.
SpokaneMortgageGuy.com. I have one last question. What is it that you love about living in this area?
I think you're 20 minutes from wherever you want to be. And you're 20 minutes from whatever you want to do. So whatever it is, I think that's my favorite thing. I think restaurants have improved over the past few years. We live on the South Hill, and just the amount of parks and ability to walk around and kind of do whatever you want. I think it's a great place to raise a family. There's a lot of reasons I love it, but I think just the ability to be 20 minutes from anywhere, the weather's typically pretty nice. You head to the other side of the state, you're not 20 minutes from anywhere.
No, that's very true. And even if you are, you might drive for an hour and a half to get there.
Right. Yeah.
So we're pretty blessed.
Yeah.
Sweet. Well, thanks for talking with us today, and you can watch this on Facebook, or you can find our YouTube channel, and we will get back with you next time.
Good job. I like it.